Hello, folks. This is Ericon. I just wanted to say hello and do my vlog for today while this unicorn chews on my head. Uh, Everything's going good. Oh, look at that hair. Woo, cowlick. Anyways, everything's going fine. I just had a wonderful overnight visit with my daughter and my grandson and her new boyfriend. It was a wonderful time. We sat around and watched the little one just tear the hell out of the house and play with play with his little car race set, and it was so cool. It's one of them uh, glow in the dark car race sets, so had to shut off all the lights and just watch him just rip and roar all over the house. He couldn't leave them alone though, so he'd always pull them off and run them underneath the stove or up underneath the desk or my wheelchair, and so we didn't have to go hunting them and hiding, fighting them. I think Batman's ready to punch me in the ready to punch me over here. Quit it, Batman. I'm gonna hit you with my glasses. Maybe. Maybe. There it is. Okay. Uh, Again, just wanted to say thanks everyone for listening in. I'm going to start a little bit of a weird thing today. I'm going to start a little bit on my life story. It's Christmas Eve, and here I am and living on my own. My family's getting together in Casper, and I'm not sad about that. I'm happy that they're all got together and they're going to get to do the Christmas tradition things that we always did. Uh, it's, it's cool. They're all get together and they get to share the love that way, especially with the grandchildren and Jessica with the new grandchild Grayson on the way. I can't wait. It's going to be a few more months. Just really excited. Let's see. Story of my life. I was born in Richmond, Missouri. Actually, that's where I lived. I was actually born in Kansas City, Missouri, at General Hospital, the old General Hospital before it closed down. And my mother's name was Helen. My dad's name was Bob. And I had my siblings were the oldest one was Wilma Jean. Then there was Robert, or or Bob Lee, is that what you used to call him? And then my older brother Bruce, and then me, and then my younger brother Troy. In between Bruce and me, I believe, or it might have been between Bob and Bruce, there was a couple of twins that passed away at birth, and they buried them in the backyard. I remember that they were buried underneath a bush in the back of our property. Um, really kind of weird, but that's just I guess the way shit was done back then. Um, Never did understand that, but they were stillborn, I guess. But as far as family and life growing up, lived in a small town in Missouri, Richmond, and we had neighborhood kids. We'd all play and have fun, and there wasn't a day that everybody wasn't outside playing and just having a great time. I loved my old neighborhood on Lexington Street. Uh, my dad's our old house was basically I think it was box cars that they put together, old box cars from trains that they put together and made a house out of them. I can't remember. It may have been stick built. I don't remember exactly, uh, but I want to say they were made with train cars. Um, it was a little bitty old house, like one bedroom, one kind of a bedroom, bathroom, kitchen, and living room where my brother Bruce and I slept on a pull-out bed, pull-out couch. I remember growing up, my dad was pretty sick most of the time I was growing up. He was in World War II, and he got sick from, I don't know if it's from something that happened in World War II. I think mainly it was because of, in Missouri back then, they had a lot of coal mines and underground mines, and he worked in underground mining. My dad was about 5'8" and little skinny guy, and he was probably perfect to go up underneath the grounds there and dig for coal. Um, matter of fact, when he passed away, my mother ended up getting a miner's pension for him doing that. Further to the story, had some cool shit happen. Uh, we would spend time, like I said, hours upon hours playing. We had a big, huge hill up above us. We all the kids would go up and play army on this hill, and it was such a great time. There was a coal mine entrance up there that people had thrown trash and stuff into, and just filled it totally full, so kids couldn't get down in it and things. Uh, I can remember now. It's called the old McCormick House that was set across the street from me. And if you ever wanted to see the epitome of a haunted house, all you had to do was look out and see this thing. It was a two-story, uh, slap-sided house. Had big, huge trees all around it. I remember they had those trees with the big long beans. We called them cigar trees, and they were really cool. But we'd play on this hill behind the McCormick House, and it would just seem like it was the hugest thing in the world. There was one part of it where you could go, and there was a pretty sheer cliff, and you could slide down that on your butt or on a piece of cardboard or something and have fun with that. And then across the hill there was railroad tracks, and then right across the tracks was where I met became my best man at my wedding, one of my best friends, Sam Moppin. Had a great time with him, met his family, fell in love with everyone. We stayed friends until today. We started out as young kids. Sam's the same age as I am. Let's see. I remember playing Army in flashlight wars, and we'd take flashlights and we'd go out and hide in the hills, and other people would come around trying to catch you, and if you got close enough, you'd turn the flashlight on them, and that's how you shot them. What a great time that was. Later on, we progressed to BB gun wars, which wasn't quite as fun. Well, it was fun, unless you're the one getting shot. Didn't stop doing that for quite a while. But anyways, with every good memory, there's always the bad ones. And I told my psychologist, Dr. Polly Akers in Gillette, Wyoming, wonderful doctor. If you ever need a psychologist, she's the one. We talked about getting out repressed things, so I'm going to be really candid in some of these vlogs. When I was about, I can't remember exactly, it's like between ages of 6 and 9 or 10, a girl came down the street, I'm not going to mention any names, and she took a group of us kids, and I'm not going to mention any names there. Sammy was not included, so this is before I met Sammy and got running around with him. The scout took us all back in the back of my house. There was across the way there was a ditch behind my house. There was a big shed behind my house, and then you go further down, and there was an outhouse. Yeah, anybody know what an outhouse is? Anyways, and then there was a big, huge ditch that ran through there, and it'd been used for years and years and years as a trash hauler. Yeah, in Missouri we called them haulers. Anyways, across the way there was a gentleman that owned another big shed, and as kids we all learned how to break into the shed, and we would go in there. We wouldn't steal anything, but this girl took us all over there, and she showed us how to have sex, and at that age had no idea what we were doing, but she pushed that off on a lot of us, and it made no difference. I mean, everybody was having sex with everybody. There was no gay, there was no straight, there was no nothing. I mean, everybody was playing with everybody, and that went on for a few years. So that's one of the things that I regressed for a long time, and it's a memory that I think it's fucked me up over the years. So I can understand what rape is about. Didn't realize that's what was going on. To us as kids, it was excitement. There was tingly feelings. There was uh, playing house. A lot of kids when they play house, there's a fake mom, mom and dad kids, or then there's baby kids, and teenager kids and all that. But uh, this became a serious way of playing house, and so the whole meaning of playing house went from being very innocent to very dark. Of course, back then I don't really consider it a traumatic experience, other than it does weigh on me. I think it did make a difference in my adult sexual life, and probably why I'm just a friggin' kinky. Uh, had something to do with that, I think. But yeah, I had to work my way through that, and to see it for what it is. My doctor always says, "Are the feelings you're having, are they true?" And if you say yeah, it's, well, are you sure? Do you absolutely positively know that it's true? And you're like, well, I'm not for sure. Well, then if you don't know that something's true, let it go. So that's kind of the stance I'm taking with this. I know what happened, but I don't know that I call it rape. But I mean, technically it was, and yeah, it did fuck me up. But is it? It was just weird because I mean, I don't have real bad, traumatic feelings of that. Oh, you hurt me type thing, but I do feel pretty rough about it now. What I think what happened to me is I got older and I realized the saying, there's everybody, all the experts used to say that if you were traumatically influenced as a youth, if you were raped, that there's a chance that you're going to become a rapist. Well, I trust me, I've never had those feelings. I've never done anything inappropriate like that. Never looked at a child and thought of them as a sexual being at all. Uh, Now, once they get legal age and things like that, I might notice, or I might say somebody, that's your child's a pretty kid. You got a pretty girl, or you got a handsome young man there, but nothing sexual. So I was had to deal with that as I grew up. Had to deal with the guilt, thinking maybe this is something that's going to happen, and possibly is why I got into a lot of the public service stuff that I've done over the years. The being a police officer, and a firefighter. Well, firefighter and EMT was kind of from Sammy and I, because we used to dream about that all the time when we were growing up. When we'd actually take boxes and put bricks around them, set the boxes on fire, and take squirt guns and our squirt guns or our bottles. We dump we dump out mom's liquid cleaner and put this pump spray, and we would sit there and put the fires out. And then Sammy and I, about age 12, we took our first CPR class, and I'll never forget it. It was great. I blew into the mouth of the Recessa Annie, and it made her whole chest pop up. And it was funny. Traumatic? You want to talk traumatic? That was traumatic. The poor, one of the doctor's nurses' aides was there, and she was taking this class with us, and she laughed so hard I think she almost pissed herself. That was a good memory. I'm sorry, I kind of wandered there. Uh, I think that's kind of why I got into. Back to the other thing. I think that's kind of why I got into public services, to make myself a better person, to prove to myself that I was better than the thoughts I was having. And it wasn't sexual thoughts; it was just thoughts that maybe one day. And until just about a month ago, I was thinking to myself that same bullshit crap. And Dr. Akins helped me get through that. So I know now that no, I've never been, never will be a predator. So, but when I was a police officer, it was easy for me to take those predators and to help interview them or whatever. And even as I became a jail administrator, it was easy for me to deal with those folks because I could get into their heads for for interviews. Tell them the things they want to hear until they uh, tangle themselves up in a knot that they can't get out of, and then stand up and go, "Oops, you screwed up." But that's usually after I had them write out and sign their confession. Um, so yeah, I think that was one of the reasons I got into it. And then after I got into it, I just fell in love with it. Every aspect of police work was wonderful, other than death notices and things like that, working car wrecks and somebody didn't make it or something like that. Even the days when it got shitty and people would pull guns on you. And I worked a case one time. The guy had it. I walked up to the door and he stuck a gun to my forehead. And I told him, you don't want to do this. And he's like, why not? And I said, he goes, am I under arrest? And I said, uh, yeah, you're under arrest. And he started lowering the gun, and then I knocked it out of the way, and him and I and the gun went through the wall. Had a rookie partner with me. I was more worried that the partner was going to shoot me in the back of the head than the guy with the gun. Had that happen a couple of times with rookie partners in different towns. Because I worked in my hometown, and I also worked in another couple of little small towns around us, and we had some wonderful experiences there. Uh, I'm not going to really go into a whole lot of police stories right now. I mean, you can turn on TV and see a lot of those. But overall, police work was a wonderful thing, and if I would have been able to stay in as a police officer, I would have probably made it my career, and I'd probably still be doing it today if I was able. Um, I'm not real comfortable right now saying why I left the police department. It was, I mean, nothing inappropriate or anything like that. Well, a little. And I'll talk about that in the future. But that's kind of the way I grew up, is having fun for the most part, and then a lot of fucked up shit happening. And yeah, it did weigh heavy on me. And I think that's to a degree one of the reasons that I am so damn fat. Is I let that you're never good enough feeling uh, stay with me. And like I told the psychologist, that because the way my weight is, I think that I was trying to commit suicide by cheeseburger. And that's kind of a funny statement, but there's a lot of people out there that's doing the same thing. It's easy not to be thought of as a sexual person and not to be uh, feel like you're a victim when you're big enough that nobody sees you as a sexual person anymore. I'm right now about 560 to 580 pounds. I am a big guy. I'm so big now that my walking is so limited that I have to use a wheelchair. Well, that, and I had male breast cancer, and with it, when I was on the chemotherapy, I had many seizures, not many seizures, but many strokes that caused me to lose a lot of my mobility on my left side, especially my left knee. And so, yeah, there we go. I'm trying to get weight loss surgery and working on it. I've been working on it for 2 years now. Um, I went to see another psychologist before Polly, and this guy was a quack of the highest sorts. Told him everything that he needed to do from what I was told from the weight loss center. They said the weight loss center is about 100 or so miles away from me, so they let me see the psychologist in my town. So I started seeing him under, and it was only supposed to be for 2 months, just to get a good evaluation of me to let the doctor down there know if I was ready or not for weight loss surgery. And he stretched it out. I mean, I went for the 2 months. I told him, yeah, we need to send all our records down to Rapid so they could secure me a spot for surgery. And he never sent records. So about 2 months after that, I hadn't heard nothing back from Rapid. And then one day they called me and they said, we're not getting records from your psychologist. And I'm like, what? She goes, we haven't been getting records from your psychologist. Now, granted, I was still seeing him during this time. I didn't quit after 2 months of seeing the psychologist, which I don't know that I will ever quit seeing a psychologist anymore. Because Dr. Polly's really doing a lot of good work with me, getting me feeling a lot better about myself. But so I went up and talked to the office. I actually went to a meeting with him and told him that you need to send some paperwork to Rapid City because they're not getting the information for my surgery. So he sent them a stupid cover letter that basically said Larry's okay, and didn't answer any of their questions, didn't have any idea what he needed to know to satisfy their questions. I guess he expected me to tell him how to do his job. And I mean, I'm not saying that facetiously. I'm saying that because he's a doctor and he should have, if a client come to me and I was a doctor and said that I needed to have a certain thing done, I think that I would clarify it with the other doctor. That's just, common sense. Well, long story short, after that visit, I didn't feel comfortable seeing him anymore. But I got a call again about another month later. Well, we got this letter, but it doesn't say anything. We need his reports. So I went up to his office, left him a message, talked to the nurses, told him, he needs to send his notes so they can see what's going on. Well, he didn't do it. Didn't do it. So finally they called me back and said the doctor in Rapid finally called him and got a hold of him, because I left him the doctor's number and said, why don't you just call Dr. Hughes and Rapid and get this straightened out. Well, they got to talking and he had done nothing he was supposed to do. And granted, this is like after 6 months. So Rapid calls me and says, you're going to have to start over again. And that was just like dropping a brick on my head. I've been doing this already. I started doing all the work for the weight loss surgery when I thought I was going to have it in Wyoming. Well, they don't handle my weight people in Wyoming, so they sent me to Rapid. So I restarted everything when I went to Rapid, and now I have to restart again. Well, thank goodness I did, because that's how I met Dr. Polly. But yeah, I'm really pissed. I tried to get the medical records from the hospital. They said they have up to 10 days to get them to me. It took like almost 4 weeks to get them. And I actually had to call patient advocacy at the hospital, and they basically had to set him down and tell him that he had to write this or send these reports out. He hadn't even printed them off his computer. He had not said anything. And I finally get these reports, and they're just stupid, cursory reports, not really saying anything. Larry was happy today. Larry's a little freaked out because his brother's moving back to Missouri and he's going to be living alone. What does this have to do with weight loss surgery? So it's just, you could have got the same report from your detention teacher in high school. You get in trouble, go to detention. Well, Larry was being an asshole today. Okay. So yeah, I'm pretty upset with the guy. I'm not sure that I'm not going to do litigate against him for malpractice. I'm definitely going to call the state board of doctors and have him checked out because I think the guy's losing it. He's an older man and he works with children most of the time. That's really scary. He does day programs and stuff with kids. If he's that lackadaisical about everything, that's really scary. Okay, wow, I've been going for over 25 minutes. I know nobody's probably watching this far in, but if you are, thank you. Uh, Subscribe to the page, like the page, share the page. Um, Love you, and thank you so much for watching.